Okay, let's play a quick game. If you had to look into a mirror right now and pick just one of four words as your absolute primary drive in life, which would it be? Do you want control, fun, peace, or excellence? Take a second. Really think about it. Hold on to that answer, let it sit in the back of your mind, because that single word is actually a master key. It unlocks exactly how you interact with literally everyone around you.
Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're doing something really cool. We're cracking the code on human behavior. We're solving the people puzzle. Because, look, if you've ever sat in a meeting and wondered why a coworker drives you absolutely up the wall, or why your partner reacts completely differently to stress than you do, well, you're in the right place. Our goal today is to demystify these core behavioral styles so we can drastically reduce friction, collaborate better, and honestly, just communicate better every single day.
So here's our game plan for today. We'll start by looking at the people puzzle from a bird's eye view. Then we'll dive right into the four core styles, the high D, the high I, the high S, and the high C, before finally pulling it all together to complete the puzzle.
Part 1. Solving the people puzzle. Why we clash and how to fix it. See, here's the fundamental issue we all face. Interpersonal misunderstandings happen constantly, right? And they happen because our core motivations are just wildly different. Have you ever pitched what you thought was a brilliant idea, only to get a totally blank stare? What feels like absolute common sense to you might feel completely unnatural or even threatening to the person sitting right across from you. Understanding that gap, that's the very first step to closing it.
Let's jump into our first style, the high D style, dominance and drive. I want you to look into that metaphorical mirror again as we go through this one and ask yourself, does this intense, driven style sound like me? Or maybe my boss? This is the style that pushes the world forward, but, it can also leave a few bruised egos in its wake. Let's take a closer look.
The mindset of a high D is captured perfectly in this quote. My ideal world is one where I have control. I want to do it my way. These folks are fiercely action-oriented. They love to shake things up and change the status quo. They demand the freedom to act, and frankly, their biggest fear is losing control or not having some massive challenge in front of them to conquer. Think of that person who sends you a one-line email, skips all the small talk, and just wants the bottom line. That is a classic high D.
At their absolute core, a high D is motivated by two things: results and challenge. Now, their strengths are incredible to have on your side. They are decisive, they're persistent, and they absolutely get things done when the pressure is on. But those exact same traits mean their weaknesses include being pretty inflexible, sometimes completely insensitive to how others feel, and so intensely impatient that they'll overlook critical facts just to cross the finish line faster.
But here's where it gets really fascinating. What happens when things go wrong? There's this dramatic pivot. Put a high D under tension, and they weaponize that natural drive. They become totally autocratic. They stop collaborating, take the wheel, and dictate exactly how things are going to be. But in that crucial, stressful moment, what they actually need to do, what would benefit everyone, is to just stop, pause, and really listen to the people around them.
Next up, the high I style, influence and interaction. For a second, let's look out the window instead of in the mirror. We all know someone who fits this fun-loving category perfectly, right? They're those magnetic personalities that just draw people in. To get inside their head, listen to this. My ideal world is one where I have fun. I want to do it the exciting way. The high I is the literal life of the party. They love dreaming things up, they thrive on being involved with others, and they completely reject being isolated. Their absolute worst nightmare, losing face or losing social approval. These are your natural storytellers, the visionaries, the ones bringing all the energy into the room.
What drives the high I? Recognition and approval. Their strengths are a massive asset. They are profoundly optimistic, incredibly personable, and just endlessly enthusiastic. But there is a flip side to all that excitement. Because they're constantly chasing the next big idea, they tend to oversell their capabilities. They might manipulate situations verbally to keep everything positive, and they often totally lack follow-through. They're the visionary who dreams up this brilliant game-changing campaign, but completely forgets to file the actual paperwork.
So, how do they handle stress? You'd think they would just stay bubbly, right? Actually, no. Under tension, a stressed high I goes on the verbal attack. Because they feel like their social standing or their ideas are being threatened, they lash out with words. When the pressure hits, what they desperately need to do is quite literally stop talking, take a deep breath, and hit pause before they say something they can't take back.
Moving right along, we arrive at the high S style, steadiness and support.
These folks are often the calm, incredibly loyal, and reliable anchors in our lives. They are the glue holding teams and families together when things get crazy.
When we unpack the high S mindset, it's a totally different worldview. My ideal world is one where I have peace. I want to do it the easy way. Instead of wanting to change things or dream up wild ideas, the high S likes to just watch things naturally unfold. They crave harmony. They have this deep desire to serve others, and they vehemently reject conflict. They're that steady presence you can always count on.
Their basic motivations are all about relationships and feeling appreciated, and their strengths are so vital for long-term success. They are supportive, agreeable, and deeply loyal, especially in stable environments. But we have to gently point out the weaknesses that come with that intense desire for peace. They can be incredibly indirect, they strongly resist quick changes, and they can be overly tolerant to a fault. They're the teammate who will let a serious issue fester for 6 months just because they hate the idea of a confrontation.
And here is how they handle tension. When pushed or stressed, a high S will simply acquiesce. They just give in. They'll say yes to an unreasonable deadline or agree to something they secretly hate, all just to keep the peace and avoid a fight. But to truly fix the problem, what they really need is to initiate, to step up, take action, and voice their actual needs, even if it feels super uncomfortable for them in the moment.
Transitioning to our fourth and final profile, let's explore the high C style, compliance and conscientiousness. This profile is perfectly suited for those who strive for absolutely flawless execution. If you need something done right the very first time, you find a high C.
You can really see their mindset in this quote. My ideal world is one where I have excellence. I want to do it the right way. A high C loves to research. They eagerly accept strict methods and structure, and they flat out reject sloppy work. Their greatest fear? Being wrong or being called out for a careless mistake. Think of that person who literally reads the entire terms and conditions before clicking accept. That's a quintessential high C.
Detail-oriented to the core, they are motivated by quality and simply wanting to be right. Their strengths are brilliant in complex situations. They're orderly, exceptionally thorough, and highly analytical. But, contrasting this, their weaknesses include a total lack of spontaneity, getting completely bogged down in the minutia, and a paralyzing caution that can just stop progress dead in its tracks. They might delay a launch for months just to fix a tiny formatting error that literally no one else would ever notice.
Now, their tension response is so subtle you might actually miss it. A stressed high C doesn't attack, and they don't give in, they avoid. They just avoid the problem. They'll ghost emails or hide behind spreadsheets to limit their risk of making a mistake. But what they actually should be doing in that moment of tension is declaring their stance. They need to state the facts they've researched and make a definitive choice.
Okay, part 6. Completing the puzzle. We've looked at the intense D, the energetic I, the loyal S, and the precise C. Now let's see how these wildly different core motivations interact in the real world, because obviously, none of us live in a vacuum.
When you step back and look at the big picture, the people puzzle is made up of these 4 equal, absolutely necessary parts. Notice that no single style is superior to the others. Every single one brings essential strengths to the table. A truly high-functioning team, or even a healthy family, needs the drive of the D to push things forward, the optimism of the I to keep morale high, the loyalty of the S to maintain stability, and the precision of the C to make sure the work is actually good.
But as we've seen today, understanding human behavior really comes down to recognizing what happens when things go wrong. And it all traces back to core fears. The high D fears losing control. The high I fears losing face. The high S fears losing stability. And the high C is terrified of being wrong. When you witness those extreme, frustrating reactions in the people around you, it is almost always because one of these 4 core fears just got triggered. If you can spot the fear, you can diffuse the conflict. So I'll leave you with this final thought to take with you today. Which piece of the puzzle are you? And maybe more importantly, who do you really need to understand a bit better today? Take this framework, keep these fears and motivations in your mind during your very next conversation, and watch how quickly you can turn a brewing conflict into a real connection. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.